Welcome to the Fourth and Long podcast with Alec Pecado on Tuesday, October 22nd. Today's show is a busy one. I've got my Week 9 college football rankings, my game picks, upset picks, picks against the spread, and over-under picks, and a lot more. Let's jump right into it and get started here with get our record up here. Hold up. There we go. We are going to start with our upset picks first. And in the comments, I want everybody to tell me what they think about the new pop-up intro. My first upset pick is Michigan State plus 2.5. 5.5 to upset Michigan. And as you can see, our record is on the bottom of the screen from last week. We are doing well in our game picks. Picks against the spread. We're one game under 500. And we are well under 500 in our upset picks. But there's always time to change that. As I said, my first upset pick this week is Michigan State plus 5.5 to upset Michigan. Michigan has no quarterback, so I can easily see this being an upset. My second upset is West Virginia plus 1.5 to upset Arizona. And I think this upset, all three of these upsets, I think have the potential to happen this week. But the second one, Arizona has been playing down of late, and I could easily see them getting upset by West Virginia. And my last upset is Troy plus 7 to upset Arkansas State. I also think this one happens. Arkansas State's been decent this year, but they've had games where they're good. They've had games where they're bad. So we'll see how good they are this week. And for those of you just joining, rewatch the video again at the end and tell me what you think of the new intro. And if it's a keeper or if you want to go back to the old way of doing the intro. But now we get to my picks against the spread. And my first pick against the spread is Auburn plus 3 to cover against Kentucky. And I like this for one reason. We picked Kentucky last week to cover against Florida, and it did not work at all. It actually went the other way. Florida ended up covering the spread as a home favorite, which, again, I don't necessarily agree with the fact that they were favored at home, Florida, last week. And we took Kentucky, and it didn't work. But this week, we are not taking Kentucky. We are taking Auburn plus the 3. Our second cover pick this week is Hawaii. And this game is a late game. It's, I think, an 11:59 game. It kicks off at almost midnight. Hawaii plus 2.5 to cover against Nevada. We've taken Hawaii a couple times this year, and it has not worked. I'm willing to do it again. We're 0 for 2 picking them as a underdog. Let's see if we can get a pick with them and get it correct this time. My third pick against the spread is Oregon State plus 10.5 to cover against Cal. And I think Oregon State can cover this easily. I would say if it's gone up from 10.5, I would still take Oregon State plus whatever the point spread is, because I don't trust Cal to cover. Now, I think Cal wins this game, but I don't think they're going to cover the spread. And if they do, and we're wrong, please let me know about it on this video or on Twitter. Where's my Twitter? I will be linking down in the bio after the show. My next cover pick is Nebraska plus 25.5 to cover against Ohio State. I think Ohio State wins, but for some odd reason, I think Nebraska might keep this within a 25-point margin, which would mean that they cover the spread here. I think Ohio State wins, but I think Nebraska's going to cover somehow. Next one is Navy plus 11.5 to cover against Notre Dame. And this was self-explanatory. As you will see in a minute, both of these teams are ranked in my rankings. And I think that this is going to be a really good game this week. And I think Navy covers the spread somehow. Now, we get to our over-under picks for this week. For this portion of the show. My first over-under is LSU, Texas A&M, and the total is 53.5. Again, these totals probably changed because I did this last night. But the total I have is 53.5. And if you're going to take the total in this game, I want over whatever the total is, which in my case is 53.5 points. So I'm taking over 53.5. Over 53 in the hook because I think that this game is going to be high scoring. Put it that way. Next one is Texas Tech and TCU. And the total is 66. Now, normally I would say anything over 65.5, stay away from, because we had one of those last week and somehow it went over the total. I'm willing to do it again. Texas Tech TCU, total is 66 points. Give me over 66. Over 66 points. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring in the Texas Tech TCU game. Neither team likes to play defense, and I think there's going to be a lot of scoring. And then my last over-under pick is Utah and Houston. And the over-under for this game is set at 38 points. Now, if we know from experience, this is two bad teams, and Utah now has Isaac Wilson, Zach Wilson's younger brother, starting at quarterback the rest of the season. So, I like, and both these teams tend not to score a lot of points. I like under 38 points in this game. Next, we are going to get to my Week 9 college football top 25. Starting with number 25, 5-2 Cincinnati. And the two talking points I have on them is one, Brandon Sorsby is a very, very much a surprise this year. Me and my co-host, who will be back tonight for our podcast we do on the Fourth and Long podcast, we talked before the season how we thought Cincinnati would only win 5 games. And they're at 5 games right now. I think there's a chance they could be wreckers in the Big 12 and make the Big 12 championship game because of how good Brandon Sorsby's been playing. And also, they have a somewhat tough remaining schedule. I looked at it, and they have a chance. They have a few games that are toss-ups, and then they have a few games that are easily winnable. And I think if they can win those games, They might make the Big 12 title game. At number 24 is Duke, 6-1. And I need to make a apology to Duke fans. I was wrong on Manny Diaz because of how it ended in Miami. Manny Diaz is a legit head coach, and he's overachieving in his first year at Duke. Not many people had Duke winning 6 games in his first year there. Their win total, I think in the preseason, was set at either 5.5 or 4.5 wins. And they have outdone that by 2 wins. And I don't think they're done winning. I think they're another team that could sneak into the ACC title game. At number 23. And the other thing with Duke is they got a tough stretch of games coming up. But I think if they split those games, they'll still be in a good spot. And they will be I think they'll be good. At number 23 is Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns. They are... Oh, I didn't get a chance to get... They've lost 1 game, I'm pretty sure, this year. Louisiana's a team that's been playing really good. Their QB is playing good. And they have a slightly easy upcoming amount of games. And I think if they win those games, they can continue to rise in the rankings. At number 22 is Liberty. And Liberty leads their conference, which is Conference USA. And they also have a chance to go unbeaten again. And they have an easy chance to go unbeaten / easy remaining schedule. At number 21 is Missouri. And did I mention, yes, Liberty is 5-0. Now we get to number 21, Missouri. Brady Cook's playing really good. There was a scary moment in that Missouri game last week. And Missouri-Alabama last week. And no, Missouri and I forgot who they were playing. But they were down. Brady Cook got hurt, went to the hospital, came back, and Missouri ended up winning that game because of Brady Cook coming back. And I'm going to say this. I think Missouri, nobody's talking about them. They are a dark horse in the SEC to make the SEC title game. With Texas, I think Texas is still going to make the SEC championship game. It's just, who are they going to play? At number 20 is BYU. 7-0. Jake Ratzlaff is really good. And I think he might win Big 12 Player of the Year. And they're coaching, Kalani Sitake is coaching really good at BYU. He's got the kids playing really well. And I could see BYU being a sleeper team for the college football playoff going forward. Number 19, and I did not think I would be saying this at the beginning of the season. Vanderbilt, 5-2. Diego Paiva is playing really well, and I think the other thing I was going to write down for Vandy is I think Clark Lee has securely saved his job for 1 more year. I don't think he's getting fired after the season. At number 18, Nebraska, 5-2. Raiola playing really good football. Matt Rule. I know people want to criticize him for what he did with the Panthers, but that Carolina Panthers, that was the NFL. It is tough to coach in the NFL. Matt Rule is a college head coach. And look what he's done with Nebraska. Nebraska is playing really good football. I know they lost last week to Indiana, but I think Nebraska, they won't win this week, so this is probably the last time they'll be in the rankings. At number 17 is Colorado. And if y'all disagree with me on my rankings, let me know in the comment section. Please, I want to hear y'all's input on my rankings. At number 17 is Colorado. 5-2. Coach Deion Primetime Sanders has Colorado playing really good. And dare I say, Colorado to be in the Big 12 title game this year? Maybe. Who knows? At number 16, and Shedeur Sanders playing really good too. At number 16, another 5-2 team in Wisconsin. And Braden Locke has been a surprise. I didn't think he was going to play it all this year with Tyler Van Dyke there, but he's come in since Van Dyke's got hurt, and he has played extremely well. He's played really, really good. And the second thing is masterclass in coaching by Luke Fickell. The fact that they lost Tyler Van Dyke after the Alabama game, and everybody was writing off Luke Fickell and saying, oh, they don't have a quarterback. There's no way they're going to continue to hang around and compete in the Big Ten. Yes, they are. They have a quarterback, Braden Locke, and he might be their quarterback going forward after this year. At number 15 is Pittsburgh, correction. 6-0. Eli Holstein. I need to say this. I think he's the real deal. You knew it when he went to Bama, he wasn't going to play because they had Ty Simpson, Jalen Milroe. Even though everybody was calling for him to be the one to start against South Florida last year, including me as a USF fan, because I actually wanted to see what kind of tools he had. But he gets to Pitt, and look what he's done at Pittsburgh. And then Pat Narduzzi, coaching really good, and I think Narduzzi's another guy that has saved his job. Narduzzi's job, I think he has saved it for at least the rest of this year. They could reconsider and talk about it in the offseason. Number 14, Army. Yes, I have a military academy inside the top 15. Well deserved. And Army's off to a 7-0 start, and it's a surprising start for me because I did not see Army being this good this year in their first year in the American. And their quarterback, Bryson Daniels. Yeah. Is that his name? Bryson Daniels is the best group of 5 quarterback. Sorry, Brian Brown. Move over. There's a new leader in the clubhouse, and it is Bryson Daniels. At number 13 is SMU. They have been off to a surprising 6-1 start in the ACC. I did not expect this at all. I thought it was going to take them a year or two to transition over to the ACC. Oh boy, was I wrong. And they have a really good offense with whoever their quarterback is, Kevin Jennings or Preston Stone. At number 11 is the Second Service Academy here. Navy, 7-0, playing really good football. and should have the Coach of the Year in the American, and Brian Newberry, who I was not particularly fond of when he got hired by Navy last coaching cycle in the offseason. So not this year, but 2022 going into 2023. At number 11 is Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is 6-1. And Riley Leonard, their quarterback, is playing really, really good. He's a transfer from Duke. And then a master class in coaching by Marcus Freeman to have his guys playing really well. Now we get into the top 10. At number 10 is Indiana. And ladies and gentlemen, I need to say this. I think Indiana is actually for real. I will have a segment on tonight's podcast with my co-host Bradley on buy or sell. And hint, hint, one of the teams you might see on there is Indiana. Little teaser for tonight. Have to leave you on a cliff. But they are for real. And I was not expecting them to go undefeated. And before the season started, when I did conference ranking, when I did conference previews, and I did my record predictions, I had Indiana going 5-7. With the chance to maybe turn one of those other losses into a win and go 6-6. I did not see them starting 7-0 at all. I did not see that. And like I said a minute ago, I really think they're for real. We're going to see in a couple weeks if they're for real because they play Ohio State in a couple weeks. At number 9 is 6-1 Clemson. Cade Klubnik's been playing some really good football. And the one question I had about Clemson in the offseason before the season started was their wide receivers. Their young wide receivers seem to be stepping up and living up to what they were supposed to be. At number 8 is Texas. Yes, I know they got beat by Georgia. I could not move them outside the top 10. They are at number 8. Quinn Ewers struggled against Georgia to the point where at one point during the game he got benched, which that was a little head scratching to me. If a guy's struggling, don't bench him. Just pull him when he comes over to the sideline, pull him over to the side and give him a pep talk. Which Steve Sarkisian's a really good head coach, so I'm gonna let that slide. At number 7 is Ole Miss. Oh, wait. One more thing with Texas. They need to be more consistent on offense, and they need to have a better offensive line play from their offense. Other than that, I don't really see any flaws with Texas. At number 7, Ole Miss. 5-2. Really good offense. And they have a good 3-headed running back attack. And Jackson Dart is starting to rebound from where he was earlier in the season to being one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. At number 6 is Miami. And it hurts me to put Miami and Florida in the top 10 because if you look at, they have a couple games where they could easily, if they lost to USF, that's 1 loss. If they lost to Virginia Tech, that's 2. They could easily be 3-3 right now, if you think about it. With the fact that they got bailed out in 2 of the 3 games I just talked about. They got bailed out in the Cal game, and they got bailed out in the Virginia Tech game by horrible officiating. So they could easily be 3-3 and nobody would be talking about them. But they're undefeated, 7-0. And Cameron Ward, I know the amount of gripe I give him, but he is a really good quarterback. And they have two really good running backs, and Mark Fletcher and Damian Martinez. And Mario Cristobal is saving his job as we speak. Because if he loses those two games, I think his hot seat starts to get hot. At number 5 is Ohio State, 5-1. They had a bye week last week. They still, one of my two sticking points for them is they still control their own destiny. They play Nebraska this week. They play Penn State next week. If they win those two games, other than Indiana, which they'll probably beat, so that's 3, they got Purdue, which I know Purdue's having a down year, but we know what the saying is. You go into Purdue, and they're called the spoiler makers for a reason. They could easily beat Ohio State. And then Ohio State's got the team up Michigan, the game at the end of the season. And if they win out, they control their own destiny. And they are the most talented roster in college football. No questions about it. Most talented. You got Quinshon Judkins. You got Travion Henderson. You got Jeremiah Smith. You got Carnell Tate, Braden Ennis, Will Howard, Jack Sawyer, Denzel Burke, Caleb Downs. I could go on. Cody Simon, Gabe Powers. But that's that. Number 4, Tennessee. Tennessee is 6-1. They just beat Alabama again, which is why you haven't heard me talk about Alabama till now, because Alabama is not ranked in my rankings. 6-1 Tennessee. Really good defense. They held a good Alabama team under 20 points. And that's saying something. You don't look at the teams Alabama played before Tennessee. Every one of them couldn't hold Alabama under 20 points. Tennessee did. Tennessee's defense is really good. And Nico Iamaleava is improving and getting better. And I think that's scary for the rest of the SEC. At number 3 is Penn State. 6-0. They play Ohio State the week after this week. And I think that can tell the tale if Penn State is actually for real, like people are saying they are. Because every year they start undefeated, and then they end up losing to either Ohio State or Michigan or both. If they can beat Ohio State this year, then we can say Penn State is actually for real. But I don't think that that's going to happen. But Drew Aller has looked like a completely different quarterback with Andy Kotelnicki as the offensive coordinator. And James Franklin is coaching really well as well. At number 2 is the team that Texas lost to, Georgia. 6-1. And they're returning to their dominant form they have been for over the last 2 years. And Carson Beck, I know he's another guy I give some grief to, but he's also been playing really good. And at number 1, and this did not change, they are 7-0. They shut out Purdue. It is Oregon. Oregon 7-0. Dylan Gabriel, second best quarterback in the Big Ten. I'll let you take a stab and guess who number 1 is. And then Dan Lanning. I know I criticized him for the how do I say it? That somewhat onside kick against Ohio State. But I give him credit for that, actually. And now here are my game picks for week 9 in college football, starting in the SEC. I've got LSU over Texas A&M. I've got Ole Miss over Oklahoma. I've got Arkansas over Mississippi State. I've got Bama over Missouri. I've got Texas over Vanderbilt. And I feel like that's where game day should have been. Now we get to the Big Ten. We got a Friday night game in the Big Ten this week. It's Rutgers and USC. I'm taking Rutgers. Now we start the Saturday games. Washington and Indiana. I'm taking Indiana. That is where game day is going to be this week. And then we've got Nebraska, Ohio State. Give me the Buckeyes. Iowa and Northwestern. I'm taking Iowa. Oregon and Illinois. Give me Oregon. Michigan State, Michigan. I'm taking Michigan State. Penn State, Wisconsin. I'm taking Penn State. Now we go over to the Mid-American Conference, and we've got Buffalo and Ohio. I'm going to go with the Ohio Bobcats. And we've got Miami of Ohio and Central Michigan. I'm going to take Miami of Ohio. We've got Eastern Michigan and Akron. Give me Akron. I'm going to take Akron. Oh, no, correction. I'm going to take Eastern Michigan. That's on me. I was looking at Akron twice, and then I said Akron. Give me Eastern Michigan. Northern Illinois, Ball State. I'm going to go with Northern Illinois. Bowling Green and Toledo. Give me Bowling Green. And the last game in the MAC is Kent State, Western Michigan. Give me Western Michigan. Now we get to the ACC. And Thursday night in the ACC, we've got Syracuse and Pittsburgh. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh to beat Syracuse. Friday night, we got Louisville and Boston College. And Louisville's playing on back-to-back. 2 out of the last 3 weeks, Louisville has played during the week. The week before they played Louisville, they played Virginia Tech on a Thursday. Last week they played Saturday, and this week they play Friday. However, I'm going to go with Boston College to beat Louisville. UVA and North Carolina. Give me Virginia. Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech. Give me Virginia Tech. I'm taking Virginia Tech. I'm taking the Hokies. Stanford and Wake Forest. 2 of the worst teams in the ACC. I am going to go with the University of Stanford. Oregon State and Cal. I am taking Oregon State here. Like I said earlier, I don't trust Cal. I'm taking Oregon State. Miami and Florida State. Easy pick here. Give me Miami. SMU and Duke. Give me SMU. And now we get to the Big 12. And we've got Utah and Houston. And shocker to nobody, I'm going against Utah here. I'm going Houston. I think Houston's going to win this game easily. Utah looks horrid without Cam Rising. And the fact that Cam Rising might get an 8th year of eligibility because of injury is just hysterical to me. Then you've got West Virginia and Arizona. I'm going to take the Mountaineers at home. I believe they're at home. You got BYU and UCF. Some people say for BYU, this is a trap game because they're going to Orlando, but UCF has been awful the last couple of weeks. Give me UCF to lose to BYU. Yes, I know what y'all are thinking. Y'all thought I was going to take UCF. Nope. Oklahoma State and Baylor. Now, I'm going to look stupid because I'm picking against Mike Gundy here. I'm going to take Baylor. Kansas State, Kansas. Give me K-State. And the last one is Colorado and Cincinnati. Top 25 matchup in my rankings. Give me Colorado. And ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a thumbs up on it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know what you think of the new intro. We have another 4th and Long podcast episode tonight at 7 p.m. And at 9 p.m., we have the Pro Football podcast. And tomorrow is episode number 2 of the 4 Quarters podcast. And also episode 2 and 3 of the college basketball show, where I will be giving you conference previews for the ASUN, ACC, Big 12, and the Big 12 and the ACC and the ASUN and the AAC as well. But that will wrap up this episode of the 4th and Long podcast. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you at 7 o'clock.